life happens, and sometimes you are just not able to control external circumstances. You are the co-creator of your life. You create a lot, but then there's also God, the universe, the divine, the higher power that moves other things around. And sometimes you lose people. Sometimes you go through a big loss. You lose a job. Sometimes you go through a massive breakup. And something happens where it feels like your world is literally like torn in two. And you might think to yourself, how the fuck am I even supposed to like show up? How am I supposed to run this business or lead this team or create this content while I'm falling apart, while I'm going through these massive, deep waves of grief, while I'm in this low energy? And I want to share that you can absolutely hold your grief and move through your grief in healthy ways, and also go all in to your purpose and still be alive in the things that you truly want to do in life. And it's such a balancing act. There is no really like set way to do this. Every person's journey is different, and you really have to tune into yourself. You really have to listen to yourself for what is best for you. But grief is one of those really transformative, heavy, difficult emotions and things, and a type of energy that can either completely break you down and put you in a downward spiral and completely disconnect you from your passions and the people that you still love that are here on earth, and disconnect you from what you truly want out of life, disconnect you from yourself. Or it can also, on the flip side, hold this rebirthing effect where yes, you may have gone through a deep loss, but it's also losing old parts of yourself and allowing yourself to shed, like a snake's skin, shed old parts of yourself that are no longer serving you, and allow yourself to rise from the ashes like a phoenix and step into the becoming, the rebirth of someone new. Grief is terrifying because it really hits you hard, but it's also such a portal for transformation. And I have been moving through some pretty deep grief myself these past few months. And I want to get into and speak about and bring light to this subject of how you can hold the both, how you can rebirth through grief and become that phoenix on the other side after burning into ashes. What's up? My name is Sabrina, and I am your brain training coach. Here in the Better You space, we teach creatives, dreamers, and entrepreneurs how to train their brains to turn their dreams into their real daily lives. And today I want to talk about how to allow grief to move through you and process through you to allow you to reach the state of rebirth and transformation. So let's get into it. I recently lost my mom due to cancer, and it happened fairly quick. It was about a 6-month time frame from when she was diagnosed with stage 4 to when she decided to leave this earth. Soon after that happened, the man who I've been in such a divine partnership with, and we were planning our engagement, we were planning our wedding, there were some circumstantial things that happened that did not allow us to be together. And so we had to decide that despite of the love that we had together, that we would go our separate ways. In this whole time frame, after my mom passed away, and me and my man going back and forth trying to figure out what solutions we could find, I held my first day retreat with some of my OG clients that have been working with me for years. So it was in person. I had an entire day planned. I had clients that I still had to show up on calls with, that I had the pleasure that I get to serve. And also at the same time, I'm moving through such deep waves of grief that I've never felt before in my life. And after my mom had passed away, I told myself, I'm going to do absolutely everything in honor of her. I'm going to go all hands on deck into all of my passions. I knew there were certain things that I was holding back on and kind of like tipping my toes around when I knew I ideally saw myself like going full speed in it. And I was like, you know what? I am deciding that I'm going to go all in, take all this energy in honor of her and live the biggest life that I can live. But also I was adjusting to this new reality that I was now living in. The man that I was about to marry got ripped out from under me. My mom, no more birthdays, no more calls, no more texts. There was quite a lot that I was and still am adjusting to. And what I did is, knowing how emotions need to be felt, I knew that I could not suppress the deep and very intense waves of grief that were running through my system. And so I let myself, in the times when it came on very strong, I let myself take hours away from doing anything. No business, no gym, just allowing myself to bawl my eyes out and grieve. There's a spiritual concept that says that when you grieve and you allow yourself to grieve and you allow yourself to cry, you are cleansing your vessel. You are purifying your energy and cleansing and ridding yourself of things that no longer serve you. And it sucks. You need to validate yourself when you're going through a big loss and a big shift and you're adjusting to a whole new way of living. But when you allow yourself to fully feel it and to fully move through it, you are able to come out of it just a little bit lighter. You are able to see the world around you just a little bit brighter. You are able to be just a little more present as you let yourself grieve and then go back into your daily life. You're able to be just a little bit more present with whatever it is that you're doing. For me, it was being present with my clients. I didn't want to let my clients down, the ones who were in like my current containers. And I wanted to still show up and give them my all and serve. But I knew I needed to go through the grieving process. And this is how I did it. And this is how I'm still doing it because it's still, running through my veins. And some people might say, oh, Sabrina, you should have, taken the week off of work, off of business. You should have allowed yourself 2 weeks or, a bunch of time in order to grieve. But honestly, I know myself. If I allowed myself that time to grieve, let's say those couple of hours, those few hours, to cry my eyes out and weep and just try to wrap my head around the changes and shifts I was going through. But then I didn't have anything to anchor me back to who I am and myself and where I'm going in life. I would have fell into a deep spiral. I would have gotten so depressed. I just know it. Not that I wasn't feeling all of the depressing emotions, but continuing to take action on my passions in my purpose gave me purpose. It gave me a reason to keep going. And in those times, me being in my client calls, I feel alive. I love what I do. I'm talking to my clients and doing for example, a psychosomatic transmission on them. And I'm helping them heal their subconscious limiting beliefs and they get out of it and they feel so light and they're like, oh my God, I feel so amazing. That lights me up. And so for me, it was healing for me to continue to be in my business. It was healing for me to continue to show up on my client calls. It gave me a reason to keep going. It gave me purpose and just a little more life in my life. It didn't come out of a place of, I'm doing this because I have to. I'm going to force myself to show up. It came out of a place of, I'm doing this because it's going to make me feel better, because I know that even though I'm processing all of this and going through all of this grief, I can hold all of this grief and live in my purpose. Yes, there were things that I decided that I was not going to do. Yes, there were things that I crossed off my list that I was like, I'm going to have to push this project back. But overall, I was still devoted. I knew that if I didn't go to the gym, I was just going to feel more weak. And so I pushed myself to go to the gym. I pushed myself to eat all of my meals because it made me feel better. It continued to align me to who I'm becoming. And I know that grief is such a portal. It's so scary when you're in it. It's so scary when you're in it because oftentimes when you're grieving, you're stepping into the unknown. You're stepping into a life that you've never lived before. You're feeling like the grip of the attachment to what you thought your life was going to be like. And you're having to embody surrendering to a whole nother degree. And that is something that allows the process to also get lighter. When you are grieving, sometimes you can cause yourself more suffering than you need to. Grief is grief, and yes, you should validate yourself for what you're feeling and how you're feeling. And there's nothing wrong with the way in which you're feeling. And also, as you're purifying your vessel from what no longer serves you, oftentimes you are detaching to things having to be a certain way. God, the divine, the universe, whatever label you want to put on it, it always has a bigger plan. And when you have this attachment to something of it needs to happen in this way, that's a limitation. That is something that is chaining you down. And as you go through grief and you go through loss, you're releasing those chains. And in order to release those chains is to surrender and say, even if you're so confused, okay, even if you're so like, WTF just happened, how is this real, actual life right now? If you can, in those moments, bring yourself to your heart and say, God, universe, I trust that there is a bigger plan and that you are bringing me to this bigger plan. I trust that this is happening for a reason. I trust that in these times, it is molding me to the highest version of myself. And when you can, instead of seeing the loss and trying to grip and hold on to it and change it and curse at God and say, why did this happen? Why did you do this? Why me? When you can lift your hands up and surrender and say, you know what? There is some reason that this happened. And I am choosing to trust that there is a bigger plan. You will feel that energy shift. And in that place of surrender is where so many miracles and so much magic can happen. When I've hit that place of, you know what, I can't control this. Like I surrender to whatever it is that you're doing in my life right now. All of a sudden, I felt this magnetism turn on. People who I have been waiting on texts back from for weeks, would immediately text me. I would start getting client inquiries. Synchronicities would just happen left and right. And I knew I was in that miracle state, that miracle frequency. And through these massive shifts that I've been adjusting to these past few months, it has allowed me to step into more of this place of surrenderance. And if you can get to this place without going through the grief, please, I'm giving you the biggest round of applause, because being in a place of surrender and not trying to control the outcome and not trying to control the external and not trying to control the how. You have your desires, right? Mine was desire to have a happy, healthy family, desire to be in love with my soulmate, which I was, and to get married and to start a family of my own. Sometimes you think you know what's best, but you have to remind yourself and humble yourself that you have such a limited perception as a human being. And God is God. The divine, the universe, it's the universe. It sees so much more than what you're seeing right now. And I can tell you, through anything that I have grieved in the past, any big transition where I was like, WTF is my life right now, I can now look back on those times where I cried myself to sleep every night and be like, I can see why that happened. I can see how that thing that felt so devastating at that time, how it put like a fork in the road and allowed me to take the steps I needed to reach my highest path. I didn't realize it at that time, but that thing was blocking me. And you really, truly have to put your hands up and surrender to whatever the fuck God is doing in your life, how he is rearranging the pieces. Because at the end of the day, You are the co-creator. I feel like when we get into the manifestation realm, we can almost think that we can control everything. And yes, you have so much say to a lot of things that happen in your life and how they play out, dependent on your state of mind and your frequency and your belief systems and the aligned actions that you take. Yeah, you have a lot of say with what direction you go in. But at the end of the day, there is that higher power that is orchestrating things. And when you set out a prayer to, I want to be the highest version of myself, and you send out those prayers of, I see myself doing this and accomplishing this, and you're ready to fulfill that mission. You're ready to fulfill that purpose, that vision. God is like, okay, beep boop, beep boop. Let's rearrange some things. And you've got to say, Jesus, take the wheel. Sometimes we don't even realize how attached we are to something until it leaves our life. And then we go through the transformation of that. But know that grief is a portal, and it can be a portal to a beautiful phoenix, badass as fuck transformation. And you have to be open to that, and you have to be willing to be able to hold the duality of moving through the grief and allowing yourself to go to the depths of it, allowing yourself to process it, and also flip the lights back on and saying, I'm going to do what feels good in my body. I'm going to do what gives me life. I'm going to do what makes me feel alive and go after my passions and my purpose and go after this vision. And so if you are going through some type of grief, whatever it is, I am giving you and sending you so much love, so much healing, so much strength, so much resiliency, so much patience with yourself, because it comes in waves. You think you're okay one day, and then the next it hits you like a ton of bricks, and you've just got to roll with the punches and move through the waves and allow the process to unravel you into who you are meant to become. But don't let it sink you down into a dark hole. Let it strip you down and transform you into a more pure and strengthened and wise version of yourself. Someone who is even more in their power. I encourage you to send this video to someone who you feel may need to hear it. If you made it to this point, go ahead and leave a lightning bolt emoji in the comment section below to remind us of our aliveness and the electric energy that we strive to embody. And I will see you in the next video.